For 7 years, I believed my brother abandoned our family restaurant. He believed I had taken it from him. We were both wrong. And the people who made us wrong were the two people who loved us most. This is what happened on the last weekend our restaurant was open, and what my brother said to me in a back alley on Saturday night. That made 7 years of anger collapse into something I still don't have a word for. But I need to start on Friday. The night the bell above the door rang, and I turned around expecting a stranger. I was closing up for the night. Final weekend. The restaurant my parents had built 26 years ago was 3 days from being gone. I'd written the Facebook post myself 2 weeks earlier. Thank you for being part of our family, and 47 people had commented. Most of them hadn't eaten here in years. The bell rang. I turned with the speech I'd been rehearsing all week. I'm sorry, we're closing permanently on Sunday. And the words stopped. My brother Eli was standing in the doorway. Duffel bag over one shoulder, looking at the dining room the way you look at a place you're trying to match to a photograph. The awning's different, he said. 7 years. That was his opening line. It tore in a storm, I said. I replaced it. He nodded like that confirmed something. Then he looked at me, actually looked at me, and I saw him doing the same math I was doing. I was 38 now. He was 34. The last time we'd stood in this room together, I'd told him that if he walked out, he shouldn't expect the door to be open when he came back. The door was open now, but only because I was dismantling everything behind it. I came to help, he said. If you'll let me. I didn't want his help. I wanted to finish this alone, the way I'd done everything else for 7 years. But Maria, my last server, had a funeral to attend on Saturday. Every reservation slot for the final weekend was full. And I was one person trying to close a 26-year-old restaurant in 3 days, so I made a practical decision. And I told myself it was only that. Prep list is on the kitchen counter, I said. You remember where the aprons are. He walked toward the kitchen without another word. I listened to his footsteps on the tile, the same tile Dad laid the year I turned 11. And here's what I thought. You left. You left and I stayed and I kept this place alive by myself for 7 years, and now you show up for the funeral. That was the story I'd carried. It was tidy. It was complete. It had a villain and a hero. And I'd never once questioned which was which. That night, we stood on opposite sides of the pass and divided the weekend like two people splitting a debt. I'd handle the floor, the guests, the register. He'd run the kitchen. We'd be civil. Sunday night, I'm gone, Eli said. I won't drag it out. Fine, fine. I locked the door behind him and watched through the window as he crossed to his car. A 10-year-old sedan. Out-of-state plates. I didn't know where he lived. I didn't know what he did for work. I didn't know anything about his life. I went upstairs to the apartment above the restaurant, the cow apartment I'd lived in for 6 years because it was free and close, and because leaving would have meant admitting the restaurant had swallowed my life whole. I didn't call anyone. There was no one to call. Mom was in assisted living 40 minutes east. On her good days, she asked about the lunch rush. On her bad days, she asked for Dad. Dad had been gone 3 years. I arrived at 6. Eli was already there. He'd come in through the back. He still had a key, which I hadn't known. And he was portioning onions at the second prep station. The one on the right, near the reach-in. Nobody had worked that counter since Dad got too sick to stand for a full shift. I'd spread my own mise en place across both stations over the years, filling the empty space without noticing. Eli had cleared the right side. Cut board parallel to the edge. Bowls by size. Towel folded once over his left shoulder. Exactly the way Dad set up. You don't have to do that, I said. Do what? Set up like him. I'm not setting up like him. This is how I set up. He taught us both the same way. That landed harder than it should have. Because he was right, we prepped in parallel, mostly silent. The rhythm came back faster than I wanted it to. He'd dice. I'd hear the tempo of his knife and adjust mine without deciding to. He reached for the salt box. I slid it toward him before he asked, muscle memory. Still alive. Which meant some part of me remembered us working together as something that worked. I didn't want to remember that. Around 8, he reached for the shelf above the reach-in and found the bottle behind the olive oil. The one with Dad's handwriting on the masking tape label. Rosemary and garlic. The last batch Dad infused himself, the summer before the diagnosis. It had gone rancid a year ago. I kept it anyway. Eli held it up. Read the handwriting. Turned it slowly in his hands like it belonged to him, and something in me went hot and tight. Because it didn't belong to him. He wasn't here when Dad made it. He wasn't here when Dad forgot how to make it. He wasn't here when I found the bottle after the funeral and put it on that shelf and told myself I'd never use it and never throw it away. He touched it like he had a right to. I wanted to tell him to put it down. I said nothing. He put it back gently, and neither of us mentioned it. By 10, the prep was done, something that took me until 11 alone. I looked at both stations. His clean, mine clean. The kitchen looked the way it used to. When it held more than one person, I didn't tell him that either. The lunch crowd was double what we normally served. Word had spread. People came with the particular tenderness of audiences who show up for the final act because they missed most of the run. A couple said they'd had their first date here. A woman brought her daughter and pointed to the booth where she used to sit with her own mother. Gerald, who'd eaten here every Thursday for 15 years, always the chicken piccata, always the house white, squeezed my hand at the register. Your mother would be proud of you. Nora, you kept it going all this time. I thanked him. I always thanked him. But after he left, I stood in the empty dining room and heard the sentence again. You kept it going. Singular. As if this restaurant's survival was a monument to my endurance. And everyone had agreed to frame it that way, because I had let them. For 7 years, I'd accepted every version of that compliment. You're so strong. You're so dedicated. I don't know how you do it alone. And every single time, I'd thought the same thing. I do it alone because he left. After the last table cleared, Eli came out of the walk-in with 2 bottles of the lager Dad used to stock. The Czech brand I still ordered even though it barely sold. He set one on the pass. Opened the other. Didn't offer. Just waited. I wiped my hands. Picked up the bottle. We sat on milk crates in the back alley, the way we used to as teenagers sneaking breaks. Streetlight buzzing. A cat crossing between the dumpsters. The jasmine on the neighbor's fence. A smell I'd stopped noticing years ago. The way you stop hearing a clock. I didn't think you'd actually close it, Eli said. The numbers stopped working 3 years ago. I've been covering the gap from my savings. How much? Enough that I need a real job after this. Something with a paycheck that doesn't depend on 60 strangers deciding to eat here. Long silence. Then, does Mom know? On her good days, she thinks the restaurant is fine. I don't correct her. I should have been here, Nora. Yeah. You should have. Do you want to know why I wasn't? I almost said no. Not I'd spent 7 years building an answer to that question without his input. He left because the work bored him. He left because he wanted easier. He left because he was the younger one. The free one. The one who got to choose. But we were sitting behind a restaurant that would stop existing in 36 hours. And I was tired in a way that went past muscles, into something structural. Tell me. Eli set his bottle on the pavement, after the argument about the menu. The one where you wanted to tear everything apart. The one where I suggested updating 12 dishes out of 40. 12, Nora. I had the costing done. Supplier contacts. It wasn't a whim. Silence. After that fight, I went to Dad. You know that. You went behind my back. He took your side. Eli looked at me. Not with anger. With surprise. He didn't take my side. And then Eli told me what actually happened in that office. And I need you to hear exactly what each of our parents said, because this is where 7 years of silence starts to make a different kind of sense. Dad sat Eli down at the little desk with the lamp that never worked right. And Dad said, "Your sister has it under control. She doesn't need you here making it harder. Maybe the best thing you can do for this family is go build something of your own. That's what Dad told Eli. Here is what Dad told me. The next morning, same office, same desk. Your brothers decided to leave. He told me the restaurant is too small for both of you. Let him go, Nora. Holding him back will only make it worse. 2 conversations. Same father. 2 completely different stories. Eli never said the restaurant was too small. Dad never told me he was the one who pushed Eli out, and Mom did the same thing from the other side. After Eli left, Mom told me, "You're the responsible one. This restaurant needs you. You're the one I can count on." She said it like a compliment. It felt like a lock. Mom called Eli the month after he left. She said, "Your sister is handling everything beautifully. Don't feel guilty. She was always the one for this. You're free now, sweetheart. Go be free." She made it sound like a gift to him. She made it sound like a duty to me. Same event, same mother. 2 opposite sentences. "She told you I didn't need you," I said. "She told you I didn't want to stay." And neither of us ever called the other to check. "No." "I tried to come back," Eli said. His voice was different now, quieter. "Twice. Once about a year after I left. Once right after Dad's diagnosis. Both times Mom said you had it handled. That showing up would complicate things. She never told me you called, and you never called me. I was too angry. I was too hurt to keep trying. There it was. Not the whole thing. Laid out on the cracked pavement between us. Not a conspiracy. Not a betrayal in the way I'd imagined. Just 2 parents who loved their children, separately. Who managed the friction between them by making the distance permanent. By telling each child a story that made the gap feel like the other one's choice, and 2 children who believed it. Because believing it was easier than asking, I didn't sleep. I lay in the apartment and thought about ledgers, not the financial ones. I'd spent enough nights with those. The other kind, or the personal kind, the running account I'd kept in my head for 7 years. Every morning I'd opened alone. Every holiday I'd worked. Every relationship that thinned and fell away because I was always here. Always needed. Always responsible. I'd totaled that ledger regularly. And the sum always proved the same thing. I was the sister who sacrificed more, but Eli had a ledger too. I could see that now. Every birthday in an apartment in a city where nobody knew his family. Every Thanksgiving he cooked alone. Every time someone asked if he had family nearby, and he had to decide how much truth to tell. Every time he thought about the restaurant and reminded himself he wasn't wanted there. We'd both been counting. We'd both made sure our column showed the bigger loss, and we'd both needed to be right about that. Because if we weren't the one who sacrificed more, then what had the sacrifice been for? I brought Eli coffee in the parking lot. He'd slept in his car. We sat at the mahogany bar Dad salvaged from a closing hotel in 1999, the one he'd spent 2 weekends sanding by hand, and we talked about the day. The last day. Then Eli said, "Pete Kowalski pulled me aside yesterday. Wants to buy the space, open a breakfast place. He asked if we'd sell the name and the recipes along with the lease." I set my mug down. "He talked to you about that?" "He figured I was part of this." "You're not part of this." The words came out hard. And I heard them. The territorial reflex. 7 years of being the only one. The one who stayed. The one who decided Eli didn't argue. He just looked at me steadily until I could hear what I sounded like. "Sorry," I said. "I know that's what I do." "I was going to suggest we try to run it together," he said. I had a whole pitch. Move back, split the work, update the menu. Do it right this time? I know. I could see you building toward it, but you don't want to. It's not about wanting. I looked at the dining room. Chairs stacked on half the tables. Light coming through the shutters and slats. If we save this restaurant, if we find investors or take Kowalski's deal, or do whatever rescue plan sounds good on a Sunday morning, then one of us has to stay attached. And whoever stays attached ends up right back here. We're keeping score. You think we can't work together. I think we don't know how. And I think if we try to learn in this place, we'll do exactly what Mom and Dad did. One of us will feel like the one who works harder. The other will feel tolerated. And we'll pass it down. I like a recipe. Long silence. Then, you're right. I hate it. But you're right. So do I. We opened at 11. Gerald came at 11:15. Corner table. Chicken piccata. House white. Napkin unfolded the same way he'd done it for 15 years. The Hendersons brought 3 generations. A woman I didn't recognize ate the rigatoni slowly at the counter and left a note on her napkin. My mother brought me here on my 8th birthday. Thank you. I tucked the napkin into my apron pocket. Eli ran the kitchen. I worked the floor. We moved through the pass window, plate up, hands, order in, behind you. The shorthand of 2 people who grew up in this space. It wasn't harmony, it was something older. The choreography of a family that learned to work together before they learned to talk to each other. After the last guest left, I turned the sign. Eli pulled the shutters closed, one by one, the metal slats clattering the way they always had. The dining room went gray. It looked like a room in an old photograph. Still there, but already past. Then we divided what was left. I took Mom's handwritten recipe binder. Cracked spine, tomato stain on page 3. Her notes in the margins, more salt than you think, trust me. Eli took the cutting board Dad made in his garage. The wide maple one with the burn mark from the Valentine's crepe fire. I took the framed photograph from above the register. The 4 of us on opening day. Everyone smiling. Nobody knowing yet how the math would work out. He took Dad's cast iron pans. The ones that had been his grandfather's. Seasoned so deep they were nearly black. I'd handle the lease negotiation. He'd handle the equipment sale. Split down the middle. No argument. No scorekeeping. It was the first time in our adult lives we'd divided something without a parent deciding who deserved what. Then there was the counter. The long stainless steel prep surface that ran the full length of the kitchen. Scratched. Dented. Worn smooth where hands had leaned for 26 years. I took a clean cloth. Wet it, wrung it out. Wiped the counter from left to right. The way Dad showed me. The way Dad showed both of us. Eli stood in the doorway watching. I rinsed the cloth. Wrung it one last time. Hung it over the faucet. I don't know how to not be the sister who stayed, I said. I don't know how to not be the brother who left. Maybe we just stop being those people? That's not easy. No, it's not. The kitchen was dark. All equipment off. Pilot lights extinguished. The only light still on was the one above the pass. The light Dad never turned off because he said a kitchen should always have a heartbeat, even when it's sleeping. I reached up. I turned it off. I'll call you when the lease paperwork is ready, I said. Okay, and after that? Oh, it's not about paperwork. I'll call. I'll pick up. We walked out the back door. He went to his car. I went to mine. We didn't hug. Or we weren't there yet. Maybe someday. Maybe not. That wasn't the point. The point was this. For 7 years, I'd kept a ledger in my head. Every hour worked. Every chance missed. Every time I'd thought he should be here and he isn't. Every sacrifice counted and filed and used as proof that I was the one who gave more. And Eli had kept one too. Every door that didn't open. Every call that wasn't returned. Every time he'd told himself she took it and she doesn't even see what she took. 2 ledgers. 2 stories. Both wrong. Not in their facts, but in what they left out. Because the person who wrote each one never showed it to the other. You can't settle a ledger that was wrong from the first entry. You can only decide to stop counting. I started my car. The restaurant was dark behind me. The apartment above it was empty. The walk-in was off. The ice machine silent. The building was just a building now, holding nothing but the smell of 26 years of cooking, and the particular kind of quiet that comes after a long noise finally stops. The road out of the parking lot split 2 ways. Eli went left. I went right. Not because we were running from each other. Not this time. Just because we had different places to go, and that, after everything, was enough.